It was the early 90s, and I'd been playing guitar for a year or two, and I knew how to play a 12-bar blues in the kind of the Chicago style. I knew my minor pentatonic, and I thought I knew everything there was to know about the blues. And then I came across playing with a bass player and drummer who played 12-bar blues, but they played it more in a kind of jazz style, and I was completely lost. There I was thinking I knew everything about the blues, and then they started playing and I couldn't follow because I had no idea what they were doing. It didn't sound like a 12-bar to me. Turns out they were playing a 12-bar, and I just made a fool of myself because I thought I was so good and I didn't really understand what they were doing. And because I didn't understand what they were doing, it meant I didn't know what I should be doing. So that was a scenario, and if you're a beginner blues guitar player as well, it's a scenario that you might encounter where you play with a rhythm section who play more in a kind of jazz style, something like this. And that kind of style, if you're not used to it, if you don't understand it, it might just sound like the bass player is just playing a random set of notes. So in this video, I want to teach you how to listen to that style of music, understand it, so that when you come to play a blues as well, in that kind of jazz blues style, you know what to do. You don't get lost, and you don't look like an idiot like I did. So, what's going on there is that is actually just a standard 12-bar blues in the key of A. It just uses the A, a D and an E chords in a standard 12-bar. But what's actually happening is there's no rhythm guitar or anything to highlight the chords. And that bass player just sounds like they're playing random set of notes, but they're not. And the reason I know they're not is because that's actually me playing bass. What a bass player does when they play this walking bass style, this is the way I was taught it, is you play root and 3. So if you imagine each bar is 4 beats long. On the first beat you're going to play the root note of the chord you're on. And then for the next 3 beats you're going to play another 3 notes. So you're going to go root, 2, 3, 4, root, 2, 3, 4. So when you're listening to that bass line, you're going to be listening for the first beat of the bar because that's your root note, that's the note you're going to anchor off. So, first exercise is just about being able to play over that and spot where the chord changes are. So grab your guitar, what we're going to do is we're going to play over that chord progression. I'm going to play it through twice. The first time I'm going to play it through, I'll just be playing just straight chords, A7, D7 and E7. If you know your bar chords, they're best for this style because you play this kind of more staccato style where you just kind of stabbing the chords. Works better than if you're just playing like open chords because you get those open strings ringing through. So what I'm going to do is, first time through, I'm just going to play bar chords. If you can play just the bar chords as well, that's great. If you have to play the open chords because you don't know your bar chords yet, that's fine too. But it does sound better with bar chords. Then the second time through, I'm actually going to play more like an interesting rhythm part that fits with the swing, more like what I would do if I was playing with a real band. So here we go, here's exercise 1. So that shows where the chord changes are in that. What would be an interesting exercise is if you played that yourself over the backing track without me accompanying you. That way you can see whether you really can hear the changes and whether you can key your ear into that, what that bass player is doing, and follow where they're showing where the chord changes are. So on the first time through, I just used a simple A7 chord, a D7 chord, and an E7 chord, just using those standard fingerings. Second time through, I played something a little bit more interesting. So I was playing this kind of thing. Okay, so what I'm actually doing there is I'm thinking of that A7 bar chord, but I'm actually just playing kind of the middle three strings, the D, the G, and the B. So I'm using my index finger anchoring down on the 5th fret of all of those strings, which is actually an A minor pentatonic, sorry, an A minor triad, A minor 7. And what I'm doing is hammering onto the 6th string, the 6th fret of the G string to outline that part of the chord. You see that? It's just like a nice little move, kind of gives it a bit of swing. Then before I was moving to the D chord, I think I played something like this. All I'm doing there is I'm using the G string and the B string, and I'm playing 7th fret, both of those, 6th fret, both of those. The idea is I'm basically just walking down, because my next chord is going to be that D9, where that's going to include G string and B string on the 5th fret. So I'm kind of walking down there, just lead the listener's ear, so you know. So that's basically just like a little filter to lead where we're going. So then I'm hitting this D9, and this is something I do quite a lot. A lot of players use this, just a little chromatic slide into the chord. I'm coming in from below there, just a fret down, so I'm just moving the whole chord down a fret and then bringing it back in. You can do the same actually by going the other way and going up. You can do all those kind of things. You'll find good rhythm players do those kind of little movements without even thinking about it. It just becomes kind of part of the music. Then I think I was playing this. So again, that's our hammer onto the 6th idea from the 5th on those strings. So same as what we did earlier. But then I'm using either this finger or this finger and holding down 7th fret of the G, sorry, the D, the G, and the B. So just kind of like a nice little move. E7, I think I just played fairly standard, that finger in of an E7. Then I played an unusual D7, which is actually this. I like this because you're taking your E7, and although in the chord progression we're going down, E to D, the finger moves up. It's interesting. And that's because what we're actually doing is we're playing a D with the F sharp in the bass. If you don't know that chord, it's, where are we? 9th fret of the A string to, what's next? The 10th fret of the D string, 7th fret of the G, 10th fret of the B. It's an awkward one, kind of when you first play it. So kind of awkward when you first play that one, but you soon kind of get used to it. And as I say, it makes a nice little move from the E to the D. Okay, and then I think for the turnaround, I just did a little simple walk. It's the kind of thing you use all the time. Starting 5th fret of the bottom E, and I'm basically just walking up from the 4th fret on the A string to the 7th fret of the A string. And when I get to the 7th fret of the A string, I'm actually just playing that E7 little triad there on the A string, D string and G string. So there you go, a few interesting rhythm ideas. There's going to be a second part to this video where I'll actually teach you how to solo over it, but there's no point trying to learn how to solo over the chord progression if you can't actually hear it first. So this lesson was all about being able to hear that walking bass line, spot where the chord changes are and play along with it. Hope you found this useful. I'll see you in part 2.